Hollywood is not a stranger to the concept of moral ambiguity. And, despite some of the incredible villains and anti-heroes we've gotten in the last few years, it's a narrative approach that's become wildly overdone. We've seen it in Lord of the Rings, Marvel, and of course, Star Wars. But I've noticed that we've all overlooked one of the most egregious examples of this. A project whose proposed purpose was subversion.
Very well written. It was Tony Gilroy who wrote it. It's like Star Wars for grown-ups.
It's just that with Andor, it's actually well done. Before we start, I just wanted to thank you guys all for your patience. My daughter was born just a few weeks back, and I wanted to obviously take some time to spend with family and just kind of focus on that, and took a break from uploads. But we're back. Evelyn says hi, by the way. And with all that said, let's get back to the video. Andor is a story that simply shouldn't work. A prequel show from a crippled IP about a random character from a spin-off that came out like 9 years ago. And yet, unequivocally, it's been lauded as one of the best Disney Star Wars, or really any Star Wars, stories to date. But if you compare it to the original series, or even the prequel series, Andor doesn't resemble those projects, except for its title and aesthetics. Unless that is the very reason for its success. Andor is an anti-myth, not in its ideas or philosophies, but in its approach to storytelling.
It's about good and evil, but heroes, what makes a hero? Yeah. What's friendship? What's the idea of sacrificing yourself for something larger? Yeah. They're all really basic things. They say, well, you don't have to make a movie about that. It's very obvious, but it's actually not.
It's often overlooked that the Star Wars franchise, despite its name, bears little to no resemblance to any other war stories. Star Wars is an epic space opera about the battle between good and evil, about the literal chosen one and the destruction of the dark side and the Sith. And while, like any good story, it focuses on the characters at hand over these complex themes, it's still a massive epic. But Andor is just normal.
The idea of ordinary people, the idea of making a story that's in the kitchen instead of the dining room, and what do you do when history comes and kicks your door down and says it's time to make decisions?
Normal characters, normal planets, normal bad guys, and normal rebels. And because we know Star Wars as one thing, an epic space opera, for the creators of Andor to make Star Wars normal, well, it's the most unexpected thing possible. So while there are many elements that make the show Andor great, I think its writers' ability to write compelling characters without the need to label them as good or evil is what makes the show so compelling, mature, and unmistakably refreshing. One of the first things that stood out to me while watching Andor is how threatening the Empire actually is. Previously, there had been imposing figures like Tarkin, Thrawn, or Darth Vader, but every other aspect of the Empire was used as cannon fodder, a way to make heroes and villains more imposing. But in Andor, from the very first scene, we feel the threat of a galaxy under Imperial rule, the fear. And how, by killing one security officer, not even a stormtrooper, would put a target on your head throughout the galaxy. This detail is fantastic. Not only is it important that the antagonists of your story are legitimate and threatening, but in an empire that stretches all across the galaxy, ruling hundreds and billions of people, it makes sense that your ground-level forces would and should be somewhat threatening. For the first time ever, we see how and why the Empire works. It's efficient, detailed, and a widespread ruling machine. And while oppression is certainly part of their systemic rule, most of the people in and working for this empire are not simply sadist, power-hungry warmongers. They're people, doing their jobs and simply turning a blind eye to the evils around them. Or perhaps even believing in them.
Security is an illusion. You want security? Call the Navy. Launch a regiment of troopers. We are health care providers. We treat sickness, whether they arise from within or have come from the outside.
Because the reality is, for the Empire to function, evil must be, well, normal. Take a look at one of the main antagonists of the first season, Syril Karn. Syril is a security guard on Morlana 1, who works as a subcontractor directly under the Empire. He is overzealous, looking for recognition, but more importantly, looking to uphold the rules and order that are characteristic of the Empire.
There's no room for doubt on the path to success and justice.
Syril believes he is right, and his search for justice is a key component of his character arc. And that's why this show's demonstration of the Empire is so unique. For the most part, the evil of the Empire demonstrated in Season 1 does not come in the form of action scenes or blaster battles. It's social, it's quiet, and most importantly, it's all decided in boardrooms. Once Syril identifies Andor and sets out to try and catch him in a SWAT-like raid, Andor escapes and the issue is taken over by the ISB, the Imperial's equivalent of the Nazi SS. And this is where the normality of evil becomes even more apparent. You'd think this storyline would be one filled with brutality, exciting chases, and secret torture chambers. And while it has its dark moments, narratively, it plays out like an office drama.
Yes, sir. Confidence is high. He got the pilot talking almost immediately.
The Imperial masking device he used is one of the items stolen from the naval yard in Lozash last year.
Incredible.
Apologies, we were off-site.
We expand our perspective to Dedra Meero, who is a senior officer in the ISB looking to expand her control and excel in her career. And for a good part of her character arc, the audience is rooting for her. After all, this guy's annoying.
I believe our sector protocols, as described in the ISB Code of Conduct, are being violated by Supervisor Meero, and that this overreach, for which she was previously reprimanded, risks compromising Imperial safety to a degree that silence is no longer possible.
And Dedra is not only better at her job, but a way more likable member of the Empire. The way the show is written encourages us to root for these characters who are expressly evil. And because there is distance between them and the other examples of the Empire's brutality, we can still like them. After all, they're not evil prison guards like these guys. They're only the people that make laws that are directly responsible for the creation and propagation of a prison system like this. Wow. It's not until the last few episodes of the show that we are forced to reconcile our affection for Dedra or some of the other members of the Empire, and our distinction between good space Nazis and bad. When we see Dedra actively interact with good characters, torturing them, interrogating them, and serving the role the Empire has always served in Star Wars, one of explicit, systemized oppression.
You're ISB, aren't you? Worst of the worst.
You're going to tell me absolutely everything you know about the buyer.
But this message wouldn't have such narrative weight if the creators were more intent on preaching it. It feels morally ambiguous because instead of telling us what to think, Andor simply allows us to think and to decide for ourselves. Characters act in all the ways they would and should in everyday life, not cartoonishly evil and not cartoonishly good. And speaking of the cartoonish nature of good, we couldn't address the moral complexity of Andor without talking about the rebellion. War is a nasty thing, not simply for the casualties, but for the monsters it makes men into. The things everyone is eventually asked to witness, to say, or to do. And despite the moral superiority of the rebel cause, Andor does not shy away from this reality. In fact, the arc of the titular character, Cassian Andor, addresses this concept directly. We start the show seeing Cassian as an angry man. He hates the Empire and everything it stands for, but has no real outlet, goal, or overall plan. He is simply out to protect himself and the people he loves. But after killing 2 Imperial security guards, he goes on the run. He tries to reach out to a mysterious contact looking to sell expensive spaceship parts, and is seeking to escape from the law, but ends up meeting Luthen, one of the key figures of the Infant Rebellion. And that's when Luthen asks him to join the rebellion, or rather, pays him.
I know you killed 2 corpus at Morlana 1. I know they're coming for you. Seems like such a waste to let them have you. Waste of talent. Who are you? That's the wrong question. The right question is, how much time do we have to get out of here?
Why would I go anywhere with you?
Don't you want to fight these bastards for real?
From here, Cassian plays a key role in the massive Aldhani heist, but importantly, does that entirely for his own gain, whereas everyone else on the team are bought into the cause, are set on fighting and perhaps even dying fighting the Empire. It's only after this heist that we see Andor's character shift when he's faced with a proposal, from a character who ironically mirrors his selfish mindset at the start of the show.
I saw the first minute you came into camp. You're just like me. We were born in the hole, and all we know is climbing over somebody else to get out. There's a moon 8 parsecs from here with nobody home.
And offers to split the earnings with him and simply run away.
Catch our breath.
But Andor kills him.
Split up the winnings.
For the first time, we see him sacrifice for the cause of the rebellion. And after, the final arc of the show and going to prison, this investment in the cause of the rebellion only increases so that by the end of the season, he is ready to serve the cause wholeheartedly. But keep in mind, the cause in its current state is not noble by any means. And when talking about Cassian's only true contact with the rebel cause, Luthen Rael, the moral ambiguity of the rebels becomes even more unclear. Because Luthen is not a saint.
I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy to defeat them. I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see.
He is the messy and unfortunate underbelly of any war, a side of Star Wars we've never seen, and the unfortunately necessary building blocks of a greater movement. He orchestrates explicit action that, while resulting in growth for the cause, directly causes the increased oppression, torture, and death of millions. He sacrifices the little people of the galaxy for its greater good. Like I said, moral nuance at its finest. And this contrast between philosophy and action is drawn even further when we see the interactions of Luthen with Mon Mothma. For the most part, Mon Mothma was a quiet, angelic figure who always stood as a way to connect to the original series and just the general ideas of the rebellion. Glorified fan service. But in this show, we see the depth of her character and the sacrifices she and others had to make to keep up this prestigious image, this noble cause. Mon Mothma does no sacrifice. All of them do. As harsh as it sounds, this second season makes it even clearer that Mon's choices with her daughter are a failure of motherhood, of her duty to her child and her family, all sacrificed for the greater good. An action that myself and I think probably many viewers are uncomfortable with, and one that raises the ultimate question: what can or should you sacrifice for the greater good? Disney Star Wars has tried to explore moral nuance before, but if you look at examples of this, shows like Star Wars Acolytes, the creators subject themselves, their stories, and their audiences to their own perspectives. They don't simply show people being people, but set out from the start to tell you who is good and who is bad, even if their actions don't line up. But Andor understands the fundamentals of moral ambiguity, They write characters and allow them to be themselves and allow the story to play out as it would, even when it makes people uncomfortable, even when the Empire looks good, or the Rebellion looks bad. But as always, I would love to know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you want to see more content, video essays on Star Wars, and just sci-fi and fantasy in general, please like, subscribe, check out all the other videos we've created, and of course, sign up to my email list down below. And no matter what you do, keep reading, keep writing, and I will see you all in the next video.